Ladies, today I'm not giving you magic. I'm giving this is not about tricks or games. This is about impact. And it only takes one text to make him miss you like crazy. If you know the science behind the silence, let's break it down. 6 keys to that text that hits his soul like thunder. Most people think words are what hooks someone's attention, but in reality, it's the feeling you leave behind. If you want him to miss you like crazy, don't come with noise, come with depth. Don't send 5, 6, 7 messages trying to remind him you exist. That only tells him you're still orbiting his world. What makes a man truly miss you is when you make your world felt, even in your silence. And when you do speak, it's not to fill the void, it's to create one. The right text isn't loud. It's low volume, high voltage. It's the one that slips into his phone like a whisper, but hits his chest like a wave. You're not asking for attention. You're planting a memory. That's the difference. So many women think they need to chase, prove, remind. No, you need to evoke. You need to show that you're not standing outside his door. You're already inside his head. Now, here's how that one text works. You start by connecting to something he already values. A shared memory, a specific moment, something that carries texture. You don't say, I miss you. That's flat. That's predictable. You say, just walked past the diner with the terrible fries, and the perfect lighting made me think of that dumb joke you told about the ketchup. Now you've done 2 things. 1, you brought him back to a scene. 2, you activated emotion through detail. That's how memory works, not statements, but in snapshots. But it doesn't stop there. You slip in a pause, something unsaid, a hint of vulnerability. Kind of funny how a place can feel full and empty at the same time. That right there, that's what hooks him. That's not you asking him to come back. That's you feeling something real and letting it live, without demand, without pressure. And it's in that emotional honesty, wrapped in restraint, that he starts to spiral. Because men don't miss what's loud. They miss what's felt. And what they feel the most is what they don't have easy access to anymore. That text becomes a puzzle, a mirror, a memory. It replays in his mind when he's brushing his teeth, when he's staring at the ceiling, when someone else is talking and he's not even listening. And he won't even understand why it hits the way it does. He'll just know something's different. You're not performing, you're just present. In the kind of way that lingers long after the message is read. And when you end it with emotional fineness. Not desperation, not curiosity, not a question mark. You let it hang. Something like, anyway, guess that moment just stayed with me. Hope you're good. That's it. That's the dagger, because now you've stirred him, left him without closure, and reminded him that you moved on, but not without depth. That paradox, that's what keeps him coming back to the message, reading it twice, 3 times, wondering what you meant, wondering if you still feel that way, wondering if you're gone, or just harder to reach now. The best text isn't the one that makes him answer right away. It's the one that keeps him awake. The one that rides shotgun in his mind while he's driving home at night. The one that feels more like a scent than a sentence. That's what makes him miss you. Not because you're gone, but because you left an imprint. That's the power of one text. Not to get a reply, but to get remembered. Most people try too hard. They write too much, explain too much, feel too much out loud. And in the process, they erase the mystery. But the truth is, if you want a man to miss you like crazy, the one thing you have to master is the art of restraint. Not cold games, but restraint, the ability to say less and mean more. That's what creates space in his mind. That's what allows him to feel your absence instead of just noticing it. The first key, the kind of message that lingers, is understanding the difference between emotion and exposure. You want to be real, not raw. You want to evoke, not overwhelm. So instead of saying, I miss you, please talk to me, you say something like, I walked past that old corner where you teased me about my playlist. Still cracks me up. That's it. That's the entry wound. You're not asking him to respond. You're not laying your heart out in pieces on the floor. You're just letting him remember. Because memory, when tied to emotion, is what wakes up a man's sense of longing. You're not writing him a script. You're showing him a flashback. One sentence that lights up a corner of his mind he wasn't expecting to visit again. That's how you become unforgettable. You give him a moment, not a demand. And the reason this hits so deep is because men are wired to revisit what feels unresolved. So when you drop that message, and you don't follow with a paragraph when you don't ask, did you get it? Or how are you feeling? He starts to wonder. And wonder is the birthplace of desire. The longer he sits in that quiet, the more you grow in his mind. But then comes the second key. timing and tone. The timing is simple. You don't send this kind of message when your emotions are at their peak. You send it when you are grounded, calm, clear, not when you're desperate for connection, but when you know you don't need it. You just feel something worth sharing. That difference, that's power. And the tone, it has to be soft, not sharp, confident, not clingy. You're not throwing a line to pull him back in. You're offering a single thread and let him decide if he wants to follow it. The moment you say too much, he disconnects. But the moment you leave him with just enough to feel, to imagine, to rewind, that's when he starts to H. Something like, funny how quiet things get when someone used to fill the silence. That's not bait. That's poetry. That's a sentence that lands with heat. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's true. And once he reads it, he can't unread it. He starts associating that quiet with you. He thinks of your voice, your laughter, your touch. Not because you asked him to, but because you let him. That's the whole point. The right message is not an invitation. It's a presence. It says, I'm not trying to get your attention. I'm already inside your memory. And when you end it gently. Anyway, just passing thought. Hope you're doing okay. That's the closer. It's polite. It's devastating. Because now he's left holding that message like a question he doesn't know how to answer. And as hours pass, then days, he won't forget it. He'll come back to it, not because of what you said, but because of what you made him feel. Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it that changes everything. If you want him to miss you like crazy, it starts with understanding that emotional impact comes from precision, not pressure. Most people try to compensate with more words, more effort, more urgency. But missing someone isn't triggered by noise. It's triggered by contrast. Your first move isn't to remind him of what he's lost. It's to let him feel the space where you used to be. And then, only then, you send one message. Short, intentional, not to chase, but to echo. That message should be rooted in something real, a shared moment, private joke, a sensory detail that only the two you understand. You don't say, I miss you. That's surface level. Easy to brush off. Instead, you say, passed by that tiny bookstore where we got caught in the rain. Still makes me laugh. What you're doing here is reaching into his memory and lighting up a scene. No questions, no drama, just a quiet nod to something only the two of you live. That activates his emotional memory. It doesn't just remind of you, it reminds him of how he felt when he was with you. And feelings are harder to forget than facts. Now you pause. This is where the second move comes in. Emotional posture. What energy are you carrying in that message? If it smells like desperation, he'll sense it and step back. But if it holds self-possession, restraint, and just a flicker of reflection, it draws him in. Think of it like this. Your message should read like a page torn from a journal he was never meant to see. It's intimate but not invasive, honest but not exposed. Something like, it's weird how some memories stay loud, even when the person gets quiet. That hits, because it holds a truth without pushing an outcome. It makes him feel something, but doesn't tell him what to do about it. That space you leave him in. That's what creates tension, and tension is the birthplace of longing. But the third and final move, that's the one most people skip. It's the exit. How you end your message matters just as much as how you begin. You can't fade out with expectation or a cliffhanger dripping in need. You end with resolution, something that closes the door but leaves the window cracked. For example, anyway, just thought I'd share that. Wishing you good things. That line is gentle, mature, and untouchable. It says, I remember, I feel, but I'm not waiting. And that energy, that's what haunts him. Because now he's not just thinking about what you said. He's thinking about why you said it now. He's wondering if you've moved on, if you're happy, if someone else is laughing with you in that bookstore now. He starts to spiral. Not because you demanded a reaction, but because you invited a memory. And the brain doesn't let go of unfinished business. That text becomes his unfinished business. So understand this. If you want him to miss you like crazy, don't give him everything. Give him a feeling. One moment, one sentence, one breath of you that lives longer than your presence. The right message isn't a conversation starter. It's a soul stirrer. And once it lands, it does the work for you. If you want to make him miss you like crazy, you don't start with a plea or a question. You start with presence. And presence doesn't mean being everywhere. It means being unforgettable in one small moment. Your first move is not about getting a reply. It's about leaving an imprint. That one text that lingers. That one sentence that feels like it holds 1,000 unsaid things. You don't write to pull him back. You write to remind him what it felt like when you were there. And the best way to do that is by grounding your message in specific memory, not vague emotions, not tired lines, but something only he will understand, something that unlocks a moment you both lived. It could be as simple as, I walked past that bench where you said, I laughed too loud, couldn't help but smile. Right there, you've done more than communicate. You've transported him. That bench, that moment, your laugh, it's not just in his memory anymore. It's alive again. That's the first key. Don't tell him you miss him. Let him remember why he'd miss you. Then you move to the second step, emotional tone. And this part matters more than the words. Because if the tone feels like a trap, if it feels like you're asking for something, waiting for something, holding your breath for a response, he'll pull back. If the tone feels like peace, like clarity, like reflection without regret, then he leans in. He reads your message more than once, not because he has to, but makes him feel something he didn't expect. Something warm, something unfinished. You're showing emotional maturity, not attachment. You're showing that you've grown while still carrying something meaningful. And that contradiction, that's what draws him in. People don't miss desperation. They miss energy that's evolved without them. Then comes the third piece, control the space. After you send that one thoughtful, grounded, emotionally clear text, you step back completely. You don't follow up. You don't check if he's seen it. You don't sit there refreshing your screen. You walk away. Because if you really want him to miss you, you have to give him room to feel the shift. That's when it hits. Not when you send the message, but in the silence afterward. That silence is where his mind starts to loop. He rereads the message. He imagines what you're doing. He realizes you're not holding the way he expected. And that shift in dynamic, from you reaching to you remembering, makes him feel the loss. That's when the H begins. And the fourth step, the final stroke, is the close. You don't end the text with confusion. You end it with elegance, something soft, final, and whole. Like, anyway, just wanted to share that. Wishing you light days ahead. That line is powerful not because it begs, but because it blesses. You're giving peace. And in doing that, you take your power back. That sign-off is what makes the message echo. Because now, you've touched his memory, stirred his emotion, disappeared into silence, and left him with grace. That's a rare combination. It's not easy to forget. It's not easy to shake off. That's how one message done right can shift everything. Not because of how much you said, but because of what he felt when he read it and the quiet you left behind. When you want a man to miss you like crazy, you have to understand it's not about chasing him down. It's about pulling him in without ever lifting a finger. The real power isn't in how much you text him. It's in what one message can do when it's crafted with intention. You don't send a paragraph. You send a pulse, a ripple, a whisper he can't ignore, the kind of message that doesn't ask him to miss you. It makes him miss you. And it starts with what you choose to say. The first move is subtle. You anchor your message in something that meant something. The first move is subtle. You anchor your message in something that meant something, a shared moment, a detail no one else would understand but you and him. It's not, hey, been thinking of you, because that sounds like everyone. It's walked past that old pizza place where you made me try pineapple on pepperoni. Still can't decide if I liked it. That's the hook. You're not telling him how you feel. You're reminding him how he felt in that moment with you. That specific memory does something general words can't. It reconnects him to the version of himself that existed with you. Once that memory is alive, the second key is tone. It has to be light but not careless, honest but not heavy. A message like this should feel like a breath, not a burden. You're not trying to guilt him. You're not opening the door for emotional labor. You're showing maturity. You're showing reflection. You're showing that you thought of him without needing anything from him. That's what makes it powerful. When he reads it, it shouldn't feel like an open hand. It should feel like a soft mirror, a glimpse of something beautiful that he can't quite touch anymore. The third key is restraint. You stop at just enough. You don't add more after the moment. You don't keep going. You don't explain yourself. That one message stands on its own. Why? Because longing grows in silence. When you follow up, you drain the tension. You make it about now. But when you drop one message and disappear, you keep in the past. And the past is where the strongest nostalgia lives. Give him space to feel it, to wonder, to let it land over time. You want him thinking about you when he's brushing his teeth, lying in bed, scrolling late at night. Not because you pushed him, but because you left something undone. Then comes the fourth key, self-respect. You end the message in a way that says, this wasn't for attention, this for truth. Maybe something like, anyway, just crossed my mind. Hope life's been treating you well. It's light, it's closed, and it's balanced. You're not opening a window for him to crawl back through. You're closing the moment on your own terms. That energy, calm, whole, grounded, makes him realize something: you're no longer waiting for him. And that's exactly what stings. The fifth and final piece is this: you don't wait for a reply. You don't let your worth hinge on whether he responds, because this isn't about getting him back. It's about reminding him what he lost. When that message is done right, it leaves him staring at his phone, replaying it, wondering what you meant, wondering if you still care, wondering if he still has a place in your story. That one message becomes more than just words. It becomes a presence in his mind. And long after it's sent, he'll still feel it. If you want to send one text that may miss you like crazy, you need to understand this: it's not about asking for attention. It's about creating a feeling that lingers. A man doesn't miss what's loud. He misses what's felt quietly, deeply, and unexpectedly. The goal is not to force your way into his mind, but to slip in and stay there. This is not about paragraphs, confessions, or emotional dumps. It's about delivering one message does the work of 1,000 words. By using 6 moves that are invisible on the surface but magnetic underneath. The first key is memory. Not just any memory, but one that carries a unique emotional between you and him. You don't say, "I miss you." You say, "Past that gas station where we got lost for 30 minutes and still argued about whose playlist was worse." That's not just nostalgia. That's texture. It makes him smile. It makes him pause. It brings you back into focus. But not the who wants him back, the who made him feel alive. Then you move into the second key: detail. A flat statement won't hold his attention. A rich detail will. It's the difference between thinking about you and "it smelled like cinnamon and rain today," like that morning we didn't want to get out of bed. Specificity pulls emotion. It paints a picture. It gives him something he can feel, not just read. And once you make a man feel something in silence, he starts to realize what's missing. Now comes the third key: softness. Your tone has to feel effortless, like you're just passing through, not hoping, not begging, not holding tension. That softness is what makes the message land with gravity. You're not sending in sauce. You're leaving a fingerprint. You're giving the message air. You want him to read it and think, "Wait, what's happening here?" Not because you confused him, but because you hit a nerve without raising your voice. The fourth key is mystery. You say just enough to stir his thoughts, but not enough to give him closure. You leave something unsaid. You let silence fill the space between your words. Something like, "That moment just kind of stayed with me." Funny, right? That's not a question that needs an answer. It's a sentence that creates echo. And that echo keeps him thinking. Long after the message is read, he's still turning it over, wondering what you're feeling now, wondering if you've really moved on, or if he just slipped out of reach. Then comes the fifth key: distance. After you send it, you vanish. No follow-up. No, "Did you see my text?" No emoji to soften the silence. Let it sit. This is where most people fail. They panic and try to control the outcome. But longing grows best when there's space. When you walk away after giving him something to feel, you flip the dynamic. You're not in his inbox. You're in his head. That's the power position. That's when he starts refreshing his memory instead of his phone. And the sixth key: grace. The way you end the message should feel final, calm, and grounded. Anyway, just wanted to share that. Be well. That's it. No hooks, no pressure. You close it like someone who's healed but still human. And that is what really gets him, because now he knows you're not waiting for a response. You're not lost without him, but you remembered something real, and you were strong enough to leave it right there. That's the text he'll never forget. One text, 6 moves. That's all it takes to turn absence into ache, because the goal isn't to make him miss your presence. It's to make him haunted by your absence. Let the silence speak louder than words. And when you speak, let it echo forever. Would you like this formatted for a spoken word performance or visual slide delivery? New?